Hey, welcome to this week's episode of the Mind Walker Method. I'm your host, Tony Wake, and thank you so much for joining me on this journey that we're going through to rid ourselves of useless emotions. Now, this is the second of a three-part series that I'm doing. The first part was all about blame. For those of you who haven't watched that video yet, you can click the link up here somewhere, and then it'll take you to that video so that you can catch up with what we've been discussing up to this point. In this video today, we're going to be looking at and delving more into the concept of shame. Why it's a useless emotion, what it does to us, how we develop it, how to rid ourselves of it, and how to smooth the way forward to becoming more empowered and more aligned with our true, authentic selves. But before we get into shame and what it is and how to deal with it, be sure you click the subscribe button below so that you are joined with us on this journey that we're going through. And also be sure to look me up on all my other social media platforms as @TheTonyWake. You can also find me on Anchor Podcasts and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, and also on Spotify if you are signed up there. But without further ado, let's look at shame, what it is, why we experience it, and how to get over this dreadful, useless emotion that doesn't serve a purpose in our personal growth. Now, at the core of shame, we have the concept that we are unworthy, that somehow we are unworthy of love, we are unworthy of being appreciated. There's quote unquote something wrong with us. That is at the core of shame and this emotion that we have. And one thing that helps a lot of my clients, and that I want to speak to you who is watching this video right now or listening to the podcast right now, one thing that you need to be aware of is that shame isn't just you experiencing it. It's a universal thing. Each and every person on this planet experiences this useless emotion of shame sooner or later in their lives. So you're not alone in this. You're not the only one going through it. But now, understanding that you're not alone, that you're not the only one going through it, you'll see later on in this video why that is important. And with the importance of why you're not the only one going through it, how you can deal with it later on. Now, shame has also been linked to a lot of unhealthy ways that we try and deal with shame. Be it anger and aggression, be it addiction, be it lashing out at others. Some go into deep senses of depression. Some cut themselves off from the outside world and become hermits within themselves. All of these unhealthy and unhelpful ways of dealing with shame has only led to more useless emotions, more emotions that take you further into the dark side of experience and further away from the light. Now, the reason why I say darkness and light is because that's the first way that we deal with shame. You see, shame is like mold. It only grows in the dark. And the concept of shame is self-blame. It's blaming ourselves on an internal level in the sense of I'm not good enough. And if I'm not good enough, then I don't deserve to be happy and I don't deserve this. And it's the internal experience of punishing yourself through a thinking process that is not serving you. Now, like I said, the first way to deal with shame is to bring it out into the light. So take it from the darkness, from the internal self-blaming that's occurring into the light by sharing it with others. Now, I'm not saying walking around and sharing it with every second person that you meet, but have a close group of friends that you share this with. And the reason why, the moment you begin to share the shame, the moment you begin to acknowledge it and begin to talk about it externally, you're bringing it into the light. You're not keeping it inside where it can fester and where it can grow and where it can bring all of these other unhealthy ways to deal with it into the mix. You're bringing it into the external, you're breaking it down, and you're opening it up for external interpretation. Because let's face it, a lot of times, the thoughts that we have about specific experiences, we make it bigger and grander than what it is, and we tend to generalize and distort that experience so that it doesn't have the true meaning of what actually occurred. So we make it grander and we add to it, and eventually we begin to react on our perception of it and not the true experience what it was. That's why external input is so important. Because then we know we're out of our minds. Yes, you're going out of your mind. We're going out of our minds and we're allowing other people to give input within the experience. And in that way, we dissolve the shame. Just like mold, when it gets sunlight, it starts dying and it starts going away. The same way with shame, the moment you bring it into the light and others can begin to comment and help you work through it, that shame begins to lose its hold on you and it begins to dissolve and dissipate. So step number 1, from darkness to light, take it from within, bring it to the external, and speak to a trusted group of friends, those you trust. If you want to reach out, you can find me on tonywake.com. Reach out on those platforms to those people and let them assist you to deal with the shame that you're currently experiencing. Because shame is a lie. It's a useless emotion, and it provides useless information inside your mind that is not necessarily true. A second way to deal with shame is what I call doobie-doobie-doo. Now, a lot of you might be laughing at this now, but shame has the concept of I am bad. It's something that I am. It's something that I'm being. And if it's something that I'm being, it means it's unchangeable. This thing has now occurred. I am this shameful being and I'm going to stay this way forever and my life is just going to end. And the shame just keeps piling up on top of each other. So that idea and concept of I am something bad, that's the being part. And that is false, because you aren't just who you currently are. You are so much more. Your potential is vast and unlimited. Instead, we're going to be looking at guilt next week. But instead of feeling shame, guilt is an emotion where instead of I'm being something bad, it's a mindset of I did something bad. It's something that I'm doing. It's an action that I'm taking. It's not something that I am. It's merely something that I did. So it's easier to get rid of guilt than it is to get rid of shame. But we're going to touch on guilt in next week's episode when we get to guilt and what it is and how we deal with it. Begin to think of it in terms of it's something that I did. It's an action that I took. And because it's an action that I took, I can change my actions. I can learn from the experience. I can change my action. Shame is no longer a part of me because I'm changing my actions, which means the shame can dissipate and go away. So if it's something that I did and not that I am, do. It's not something that I am being, it's something that I'm doing. So step number 2, change your mindset with regards to the concept of shame. A third way to deal with shame is to know thyself. Now, with knowing thyself, a lot of people delve very deep and philosophical into this concept. What I want to talk about when I say know thyself, and what I mean with that concept, is if you know yourself, know your triggers. Know which experiences, which interactions, which people, which circumstances, what experiences trigger those feelings of shame. Where do you find yourself where you feel quote unquote shameful? Who do you speak to? What do you do? Which areas are you in? What topics are you discussing when you begin to feel that essence of shame and that feeling of shame? Because once you know thyself and you know where you are being triggered with those experiences and within those environments and people, you can begin to prepare yourself for when you know you're going to be talking to those people, or when you know you're going to be going into those environments and into those experiences, to know that the shame emotions are going to come up. It's something that I'm going to experience. So let's prepare ourselves. Let's inoculate ourselves against it so that I'm mentally prepared before I go into it. I can step back and I can know, okay, these shameful emotions are going to come up. They're a lie. It's not something that I am. It's something that I might be doing or something that I did in the past. So let's remove ourselves from it. And if you know that you're struggling to deal with the shameful emotions and you know yourself and you know in the environments you're going to be entering into, those emotions are going to come up and be triggered by it, then simply remove yourself from the situation. Remove yourself from the people who are triggering that shame. Remove yourself from the environments and those experiences within the environments so that you can begin to heal from within. You can begin to not only feel better about yourself, but build your confidence, build your actions until you feel better and more aligned with who you truly are and who you want to be. So step number 3, know thyself. Know what triggers you and know how to stop yourself from being triggered. And lastly, step number 4, get in contact. Now, what I mean with that is not just contact with yourself, knowing yourself, but reach out and connect with others who you trust. Reach out and find a close group of friends who you can feel comfortable and in a way vulnerable enough with to share these feelings of shame. I'm shameful about this. I did something wrong and I need to talk about it. And we need to get this out in the open so that it can be handled and dealt with and stop its power that it has over me. Because anything only has the power that you give it. You are the one that are in control. You are the one that have say over the emotions that you experience. You are the authority in your own life with your own emotions. And anything and everything in your life who you give authority has authority in your life simply because you've given that authority to it. So if you have shameful emotions and you're struggling with those emotions, stop giving your power to it. It's your power. Stop feeding those emotions. And a good way to do that is by reaching out, by connecting. If you don't have a close group of friends, if you're struggling to reach out for somebody who you trust and towards somebody who you know can help you with these things, feel free to contact me on tonywake.com. There's a lot of resources on my website. There's a lot of testimonials from folks who I've helped with these type of things, and reach out. Go to the contact page, send me an email, send me a message, and we'll be in touch. We can do Zoom sessions, doesn't matter where in the world you are. Reach out and let us help you to get over these emotions, to help you become empowered. So reach out, connect, and that's the 4th way how you can deal with shame. So thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I trust you gathered some good information, some knowledge, some power from this to not only align you with where you want to be in life, to know your pathway there, but to give you that motivation to start taking the action towards that ideal and perfect version of you. Remember, the power is in your hands. It's up to you to make it so. But until then, have a beautiful week ahead. Stay safe, stay blessed, and stay true to you. I'm Tony Wake. Thank you very much.